Hello, and welcome to another episode of Charlotte Sketches, where Charlotte sketches. I am your host, Charlotte, and these are my sketches. So this video will be a little different from my usual talking points, because today I'm going to be talking about the subject that is near and dear to my heart, art school, and the reasons you may or may not want to go to one. Disclaimer. I went to art school for animation, and I got a degree and I learned a lot. But it doesn't mean that it was perfect, or that if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have done it completely different, because man oh man, I would have. Well, first off, art school is expensive. And I mean unjustifiably expensive, in the same way that many colleges are. However, the insult to injury tends to sting deeper for art school because art, as a topic, isn't something super quantifiable. It's not like a hard science that can be weighed and measured, so a lot of times you're paying someone to teach you their opinion, regardless of whether or not you agree with said opinion, or think it's worthwhile. This isn't to say that there aren't measurable ways to distinguish whether or not you grasp things like weight or form or any of those principles, and I would highly recommend those classes like anatomy, figure drawing, color theory, and perspective. But in the end, those tend to be the only classes close to having a standard for grading your progress. This is, of course, if you're interested in the concept of going into an industry for art and making money from your art, and not just for self-improvement or a hobby that you take so seriously you're willing to throw money at a school to teach you things you may or may not take with you. In a lot of ways, I think art school and business should be taught in tandem, one with the other, since art literally rests on the principles of supply and demand, and for the most part has more to do with market forces and public interest rather than creative ones. It has its ups and downs like any business, and that's fine. It's just something you have to deal with. And I think some art schools would benefit greatly if they made that part of their mandatory courses as opposed to other classes. That said, not everything at art school is useful if you're going there for a degree. I'd recommend going to a junior college and majoring in business before going to an art school to learn a skill set. It'll help your bank account in the short and the long run, and will probably better prepare you for the industry before you even set foot through the door. Another thing to keep in mind is that a lot of art schools have mandatory courses that you have to take that have nothing to do with your major, and only exist to squeeze money out of you, or to push an agenda that you may or may not agree with. A lot of times these courses fall under the humanities, and have little to do with what you came to the college for, and it may actually make you consider quitting the college altogether. The college that I attended had mandatory diversity studies courses that lasted at least 6 hours and were required in order for me to get my degree. In many instances, most of the kids in the class looked at each other on the first day and agreed that the only reason that they took the class was for the credit, and if they had the option not to, they wouldn't have taken the class. What's worse is that sometimes their professors will require you to drop $100 per book on multiple books that would be considered quote-unquote required reading materials for the class, only to find out that by the end of the semester you've only read half of the first chapter, and all the rest of the books for the course were just some of the professor's works, meaning that you're supplementing their income by being forced to buy the materials that the teacher personally wrote and personally profits from, when they make it required for you to buy it in order to pass the class. And because the class itself is some level of postmodernism, which has no criteria for judging anything, any dissension of yours to the teacher can be met with a threat on your grade. The real sad part is that this isn't something that happens in every class, but happens enough to where it's a huge problem, and presents a huge stumbling block to students who are already weighed down by student debt and don't need these useless classes taking up their finances and time that could otherwise be used going towards what they actually came to the college to learn about. It seems to be that many art colleges have forgotten the fact that they're supposed to provide a service to their students, rather than just be a money farm for kids who want to learn their craft but can't because they're too busy paying upwards of $45,000 to learn about how there is no good or bad, history is meaningless, nothing matters, and we're all going to die in the inevitable heat death of the universe anyway, so what's the point? And that's not what we went to college for. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that for my major in animation, all of the classes that had to do with my major, all the teachers who worked in my major, and all the people who taught me so much about my major, all of it was insanely helpful and amazing, and I became a much better artist because of them. And if that was all I had in college, I'd have nothing bad to say about it. But it wasn't. Instead, the memories that I fall back on when I think of college tend to be negative and irritating, because I'm reminded of all the money I wasted giving to classes and teachers and courses that I think shouldn't be accepted in any college, let alone forced on students who just want to learn their trade. In my opinion, I think you should go to art school, but I don't think you should try and get a degree from one. You should pick the classes that have specifically to do with what your major is, and only the classes that you find interesting. Don't let them bleed you dry for student loans and mandatory courses. And don't let them force you to take classes and act like a puppet to parrot ideas you don't agree with, let alone want to pay money to have forced on you. Remember that art school isn't the end-all be-all, and that you're going there for a skill set more than anything else. If I could go back and redo it, so that I wouldn't have wasted so much time and effort and money, I would have. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't have gone. Just that I would have done it so that it suited me, and not so that I suited the school in question. But that's just my take on it. What are some of your thoughts? Do you agree with this, or do you disagree? And if you do, let me know why in the comments section. In any case, thanks for making it all the way through the video. And if you like this channel and you like what I do, check out my Patreon. Links will be in the description. This has been Charlotte Sketches, where Charlotte sketches. Have a good night.